May Pang walks in on John's late-night session. What happened next shocked the entire crew. The night clung to Tittenhurst Park like a shroud. A chill wind whispered through the ancient trees, carrying secrets across the sprawling estate. Inside, the silence was a heavy, suffocating blanket, broken only by the distant hum of recording equipment. John Lennon, a phantom in his own mansion, moved through the shadows of his studio. His world, once a symphony of shared dreams, had fractured. Yoko was gone, a void that echoed in every empty room. He was adrift, tethered only by the fragile thread of his music. This was the lost weekend, a period of self-imposed exile, a raw wound bleeding creativity and chaos. He sought solace in the solitude, in the endless hours of creation, yet the ghosts of his past lingered, specters in the periphery of his vision. The studio, a sanctuary, had become a cage. Each note he struck was a desperate plea, a fragmented memory of a love he couldn't quite grasp. The air was thick with unspoken words, with the weight of a legacy both glorious and burdensome. He was a man haunted, not by spirits, but by the relentless rhythm of his own mind. John Lennon. The name itself was a whisper of revolution, a roar of defiance. But here, in the dim glow of the mixing board, he was merely a man. His eyes, usually alight with a fierce intelligence, now held a weary resignation. The iconic round spectacles, perched on his nose, reflected the flickering lights of the console, mirroring the fractured state of his soul. He was a paradox, a global icon craving anonymity, a prophet of peace embroiled in personal turmoil. His environment was a reflection of his internal landscape. Tittenhurst Park, a grand Georgian mansion, was a monument to his success, yet it felt cold, impersonal. The sprawling gardens, once a canvas for Yoko's art installations, now lay dormant, overgrown, mirroring the wild disarray of his own life. The studio, a labyrinth of wires and instruments, was his only true companion. Here, surrounded by the tools of his trade, he wrestled with his demons, translating his pain into melodies. He chain-smoked, his fingers stained with nicotine, his voice hoarse from endless takes. He was a prisoner of his own genius, a solitary figure conducting a symphony of sorrow. The crew, a small, loyal band of engineers and assistants, moved around him with a quiet reverence, sensing the fragile intensity that permeated the room. They were witnesses to a genius unraveling, a legend forging his next chapter in the crucible of his despair. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The studio door creaked open. A sliver of light from the hallway pierced the gloom, momentarily startling John. He turned, his expression a mask of annoyance, ready to dismiss the intrusion. But it wasn't a technician, nor a servant. It was May Pang. Her presence, a stark contrast to the melancholic atmosphere, was a sudden splash of color in his monochrome world. She stood there, hesitant, clutching a mug of tea, her eyes wide with a mixture of concern and trepidation. May, his personal assistant, had become his companion, his confidant, during this tumultuous period. She was a bridge between his chaotic genius and the mundane realities of life. But tonight, her arrival felt different. There was an unspoken tension, a palpable shift in the air. John's gaze, usually dismissive, lingered on her. He saw not just an assistant, but a reflection of the life he was trying to outrun. She was a reminder of the world outside his self-imposed prison, a world he both craved and feared. Her quiet presence, a stark contrast to the usual cacophony of his life, held a secret, a silent observation that had been building for weeks. She had seen the late nights, the empty bottles, the desperate pursuit of a sound that seemed to elude him. And tonight, she had seen something more, something that chilled her to the bone. May placed the tea on a nearby console, the clink of ceramic against metal echoing in the sudden silence. She watched John, her heart heavy with a truth she couldn't articulate. For weeks, she had observed the subtle shifts, the growing paranoia, the way his eyes would dart to unseen corners of the room. He spoke of shadows, of whispers, of a presence that lingered just beyond the edge of perception. Was it the exhaustion? The endless hours fueled by alcohol and ambition? Or was it something darker, something that preyed on the fragile state of his mind? She remembered a particular night, a week prior. John had been working on a new track, a haunting melody that seemed to emanate from the very depths of his soul. Suddenly, he had stopped, his hands frozen on the piano keys. He swore he heard a voice, a familiar voice, singing along with him, a voice that belonged to a past he desperately tried to escape. May had dismissed it as fatigue, a trick of the mind, but the incident had unsettled her. Now as she watched him, hunched over the mixing board, his face etched with a profound weariness, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was truly amiss. The studio, once a place of vibrant creation, now felt charged with an unseen energy, a silent observer in their midst. John's genius was undeniable, but his grip on reality seemed to be slipping, pulled by the undertow of his own turbulent psyche. The air in the studio grew heavy, thick with unspoken tension. John, oblivious to May's growing unease, continued to tinker with the track, a raw, unfinished piece that pulsed with a desperate energy. He turned up the volume, the bass thrumming through the floor, vibrating through their very bones. Then he paused, his head cocked, listening intently. "Did you hear that?" he muttered, his voice barely a whisper above the music. "The harmony? It's not right. It's off." May leaned closer, straining to hear what he heard. The track was a dense tapestry of sound, layered with guitars, drums, and John's distinctive vocals. To her, it sounded like a typical Lennon composition, brilliant, raw, a little unhinged. But John was agitated, his fingers twitching, his eyes wide with a strange intensity. There, he pointed to a specific section of the waveform on the screen. "Listen closely. There's another voice, a third voice. It's subtle, almost buried, but it's there." He isolated the track, stripping away the layers until only a faint, almost imperceptible whisper remained. May listened, her breath catching in her throat. It was faint, distorted, but undeniably human. A low, melancholic hum, weaving in and out of John's own vocal track. It was a harmony that shouldn't exist, a voice that had no place in this recording, a voice that sounded eerily familiar, a ghost from a past he couldn't escape. The realization hit May like a physical blow. This wasn't a trick of the mind. This wasn't exhaustion. This was something else entirely, something that defied logic, something that clawed at the edges of sanity. The revelation hung in the air, a chilling presence. John, his face pale, stared at the waveform, a silent testament to the impossible. May, her hands trembling, reached for the console, her fingers hovering over the controls. The spectral voice, faint but persistent, continued its mournful hum. It was a sound that spoke of regret, of longing, of a bond irrevocably broken. It was the echo of a friendship, a partnership that had defined a generation. The weight of the unseen pressed down on them. John, the defiant rebel, the man who challenged conventions, was now confronted with a mystery that defied his rational mind. He slumped into his chair, the fight draining from him, replaced by a profound weariness. He had chased ghosts in his lyrics, battled demons in his life, but this was different. This was a tangible manifestation of his deepest fears, his most profound losses. May watched him, her heart aching. She saw not the rock star, but the vulnerable man, stripped bare by the relentless pursuit of his art and the haunting echoes of his past. The studio, once a sanctuary, had become a confessional, a place where the deepest secrets of his soul were laid bare, exposed to the chilling harmony of an uninvited voice. The music, once a source of comfort, now held a terrifying truth. The spectral voice faded, leaving behind a profound silence. John sat motionless, his gaze fixed on the blank screen, the ghost of a melody lingering in the air. May, her own mind reeling, knew that nothing would ever be the same. The lost weekend had taken a turn no one could have predicted. It wasn't just about the music anymore. It was about the fragile line between genius and madness, between memory and manifestation. John eventually returned to the track, but his approach was altered. He no longer fought the unseen presence. Instead, he seemed to embrace it, weaving its melancholic hum into the fabric of his composition. The song, once a desperate plea, transformed into a haunting elegy, a dialogue with a ghost. He finished the album, a raw, vulnerable masterpiece, but the experience left an indelible mark. He carried the weight of that night, the chilling harmony, the knowledge that some connections transcend the boundaries of life and death. The studio, once a place of solitude, became a crucible of transformation. John Lennon, the icon, the rebel, had faced his deepest fear, not in a battle of wills, but in the quiet, unsettling presence of a voice from the past. He had emerged, not unscathed, but profoundly changed, forever marked by the echoes of a lost chord. The music played on, a testament to a bond that refused to be broken. But what if the echoes we hear are not just memories, but whispers from a realm we can only begin to comprehend? What if the greatest artists are merely conduits, channeling the unfinished symphonies of those who came before? And what if in the deepest silence, the most profound truths are revealed, not through words, but through the haunting melody of a ghost?